Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is the start of our 3-episode series on things that happen in the bedroom. Tell all your friends. It's going to get juicy. No, we're going to talk about sleep today. We're going to talk about sleep, an issue that many of us wonder about, deal with, struggle with, love to do. We're going to talk about so many things involving sleep, how to get good sleep, how to improve your sleep, how to fall back to sleep if you wake up, the connections between sleep and mental illness, physical illness, risks if you are not getting enough sleep, how much sleep should we get? Tons and tons of information. We also get a little bit into ketamine therapy at the end of this episode. So make sure you listen all the way through. I have a wonderful guest on today, Dr. Alex Dimitriu. He brings respect for science and spirituality into his work. He's a dual board certified in psychiatry and sleep medicine. And as a consultation psychiatrist, he specializes in the complex interplay between the mind and the body. And you'll hear a lot of that in this episode, like when do we use medicine? When do we use meditation? He really brings in it all. His work has been recognized in the New York Times, Forbes, Cosmopolitan, Psychology Today, NBC News, among many other media. And he serves as a medical reviewer for Business Insider, the Sleep Foundation, and as a contributing author to the Encyclopedia of Sleep Medicine. From meditation to medication, his goal is to share the knowledge and experience he's gained through his work. He aims to help people achieve peace, presence, and happiness by discovering the right combination of psychological and biological interventions tailored to their individual needs. Alex completed his training at the Stanford Division of Sleep Medicine, and through the optimization of wake and sleep has brought truly amazing outcomes to the most challenging cases. He lives out in California, so if you're out there, you should, and you're having sleep troubles, go see him. We talk about so much in this episode, as I've said, anxiety and trauma, how that impacts sleep, sleep recording devices. We just truly get into it, and I just know you're going to love this episode. Send it to someone you know who needs to get better sleep. Write us a review. A couple lines on Apple Podcasts goes a long way to get this information out there. And we know that when people sleep better, they have much better mental health outcomes and better relationships. So one great thing you can do to make the world a little kinder and a little safer is share this knowledge. So there we go. Friends, if you've been following Beyond Trauma, you know we believe in evidence-based recommendations. Well, the evidence shows that better sleep promotes better health outcomes in every other area of life. So how do we fix our sleep? One of the best ways we can fix our sleep is sleeping cooler, and I found a product that can really help us do that. Cozy Earth bamboo sheets are made from Vicos from bamboo. They wick away heat, helping you to sleep cooler. This promotes the release of melatonin and leads to faster falling asleep and improved sleep quality. Like our guest expert will tell you, your bedroom should be like a cave, and these sheets do it. Plus, friends, they feel luxury. Since getting my Cozy Earth sheets, I want to get into bed sooner, cuddle up, unwind, read, and enjoy my space. I feel like I'm treating myself by being in bed, and winding down before bedtime is what we need to sleep well. Cozy Earth offers a 100-night sleep trial. Try these sheets during these hot days of summer. If you're not in love, return them hassle-free. But trust me, you won't want to. And they come with a 10-year warranty. That's a decade of cool, quality sleep. Upgrade your summer. Go to cozyearth.com now and use code Lara Land for 40% off best-selling temperature-regulating sheets, apparel, and more. Trust me, you will feel the difference the very first night, and if you're sharing a bed with someone, they're going to feel more comfortable too. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy. Now that we're talking about sleep, I have to tell you how I've improved mine. Many of you know I've always been really great at a morning routine, but what I hadn't admitted to myself is my evening routine was not the best, but I made some major changes to that most recently, and I can't wait to tell you about them. I have started taking moon brew. I drink their magnesium hot cocoa every night, and it has completely changed the way I sleep. My magnesium was low, not anymore. I didn't realize I was disconnected from real nourishing rest, not anymore. Moon Brew is delicious magnesium-based sleep aid. It's designed to help your mind and body wind down naturally, so you can get off any pills. You won't be groggy in the morning. Just cozy, calming, natural ingredients like chamomile, L-theanine, and many other superfoods, things your body just knows how to use to ease into sleep. If you haven't tried Moon Brew, you can get it at 30% off now. Your first order, use the code LARA30 at moonbrew.co. Try it now, and you'll get a 60-day money-back guarantee. It's the most delicious way to get better sleep. Dr. Alex Dimitriu, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here, Lara. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to talk about this topic of sleep, which is very important and part of all of our lives, right?
Yeah, sleep I think is fundamental, and it's something that I chose to study at the end of my career, at the end of my academic career, and it's had a tremendous impact on a lot of the work that I do and the patients that I see as well. I see it as like a fundamental backbone for all of our wellness and mental well-being as well.
That's right. That's right. That's what I'm seeing too. And I'm wondering, I guess it works both ways, right? Lack of sleep can lead to more mental stress, mental illness. And then also stress and mental illness can lead to um, decreased sleep or not as good sleep. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely like a bidirectional vicious cycle that goes on between stress and getting worse sleep and getting worse sleep resulting in more stress. And that's where the cycle can really get out of hand. Um,
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I got to tell you, even in the extreme form, I've seen a lot of high powered executives. Fundamentally, like a nervous breakdown is exactly that.
Yes.
It's when people get so stressed they can't sleep, and then they can't relax, and then they get more stressed. And that really, I think, is the is what leads people to the classic thing that we've always heard, having a breakdown. But
Yeah.
that's essentially in my career how I've seen it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's right. What and I'm sure there's no one thing for everyone, but how much sleep should we be aiming for?
Yeah. So I think most adults it's between 7 to 9 hours.
Mm,
The concern I think is always like the slippery slope, where if you tell people 7 hours, then they're going to get six. If you tell
mm-hmm.
people, they're always going to try to shortcut it a little bit. So that's why I think everybody aims to tell people 8 hours, knowing that if you aim for eight, you'll probably get the seven that you actually need. But
Yeah,
the true answer is about 7 to 8 hours for most adults. There's even data showing that seven may even be an optimal number.
that's my
There's been
number.
some, yeah, yeah. And a lot of it depends really on how you feel and some of the other symptoms you have during the day. Like I have some people that will sleep 5 hours a night, but then they drink like 5 cups of coffee a day. And that doesn't necessarily mean that 5 hours is what they need to be sleeping.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think, the other thing I think is important is aiming for a realistic goal. I think if people aim for something like 9 hours, you can actually stress people out. You know what I mean? Like, or even telling somebody that, you must sleep 8 hours when naturally they would sleep seven, they're going to feel like they're doing something wrong. They're going to spend too much time in bed. You don't want people to try too hard and then like realize that like and fail because
Yes.
they're overshooting what they should be doing anyway. We
That's a
hear that a
funny
lot.
thing about sleep, right? It's like certain things in life we can try harder and get better results, and sleep isn't
Yeah,
necessarily like that.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're spot on. Because yeah, with sleep, they've actually commented that there's like it's almost like a finger trap. I keep a few of those actually in my office to show patients. If you know what those are, right? It's like the tube you put your fingers into, and the harder you try to force it, like I must sleep, the worse it is. And the trick to
Yeah.
getting good sleep is actually relaxing into it and not overly stressing about it.
And now that sleep has gotten kind of fashionable and it's gotten more popularized that we need sleep, like I feel we've come out of that the more you work, the less you sleep ideal. Now there's this whole perfectionism that can arise around
Totally.
sleeping with the sleep tracking and everything. So I'm curious how you feel
Yeah,
about that.
absolutely. I have mixed feelings about sleep trackers. I wear an Aura myself, the Aura ring, and I take its data with a grain of salt. I've had a lot of people get actually stressed out by these devices. And there's a term called orthosomnia. I don't know if you've read about this, but like there's people that if they wake up in the morning and their watch says they slept poorly, they're going to feel terrible the whole day.
Oh
You know what
my
I mean?
gosh.
And the fact is that that data is not always accurate. Sure, I think it's
Mm,
great for heart rate data during the night. Some of these devices try to stage sleep and tell you how much slow wave you got or how much REM you got. That's where it gets a little fishy because even in a sleep lab, like the way we typically test people for sleep disturbances, we have like EEG electrodes on the brain on the head actually, so that we can actually realistically see what stage of sleep the brain is in. A lot of these devices, I'll always say that the further it is from the brain, the less accurate it is. So a
mhm.
watch on your hand or a ring on your finger gives us some idea. It's useful, but it's not really the end all. I think for a while there was an interesting thing that I think the Apple Watch did many years ago now, where they gave up on commenting on what your sleep stage is, and they just commented on how much sleep you got. Because fundamentally, that's actually more important, I think, than trying to stage your sleep.
Okay.
There's people that can get lost in like the two main phases of sleep are slow wave sleep and REM sleep. And there's people that can get so lost in like, oh my God, did I get enough REM? Did I get enough slow wave in this? And the secret answer is really if you get enough sleep in general on a regular basis, those things will probably normalize on their own.
Mm. Yeah, I have heard
Um,
that. I've heard that, like, if you've been drinking, you'll get and you sleep, you're not getting, like,
the
one of
deep
those types of sleep, right?
Totally, totally. But to come back to your point, by the way, so orthosomnia is a real thing to the point where there was some really cool experiment where they had people sleep overnight, and they attached a watch to them that would report how they slept. But the funny thing is that that watch was totally random. Like it recorded nothing, and they just tested to see what would happen if we told Lara that this morning, hey, you had a terrible night of sleep, and then they checked you throughout the day, and people actually said that they felt terrible even though they slept well. So you
Yeah.
got to be careful what your devices say because it does have the ability to kind of ruin your day, even though you might have actually slept decently.
Now, when people come to you and you're testing all of that, it's a lot more accurate. But uh, the place that people are sleeping is artificial to their lives. Is that
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Sleeping in a sleep lab. I still wonder how we get any meaningful data from that because, yeah, you're sleeping with like a million wires attached to your head and don't sleep in this position and keep your hand over here. And
Yeah.
the lights go out at a weird time and they're going to wake you up at 5 a.m. So, nonetheless, everybody does eventually fall asleep. And I think if you get like 5, 6 hours of recording time, like it usually is enough to gauge if there's an issue.
Okay. And what are
That
what are the issues that you're looking for?
so in an overnight sleep study.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually we're looking for things like sleep apnea. Most
Mm,
commonly, like about 95% of the time, we're looking for sleep apnea, which is pauses in people's breathing, and then we're testing to see if the oxygen level decreases during that pause in the breath. We're looking at things like REM, like some people move and act out their dreams. We'll
yeah.
track that as well. And then, indeed, yeah, during a sleep study in lab, we do see how much slow wave sleep and how much REM sleep they get, and that helps us kind of get a sense for like the sleep architecture, which is also equally important. But
Beautiful.
it's good to know also, that there's different levels of sleep study that can range from an in-lab study, which is like the gold standard. That's like the big one. More commonly these days, people are getting home sleep tests, which
Yeah.
are like a lot easier to use. The one we use is it's like a watch worn device that has one little sensor on your finger. It's not too bad. Previously, it was just like something about the size of a smartphone that you wear on your chest, and you could do that at home in your own bed and at your own hours. And I like that because it's more naturalistic. And a
Yeah.
lot of insurance companies and doctors will usually do that first, and the in lab study if something is a little more exotic.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you're aiming to get 7 or 8 hours, you said you usually need to get into bed a little bit before that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it is so important to have like a little bit of like a slowdown period. Too many people just like, you think your brain can just go from 100 to zero like at the snap of your finger. And that's not accurate. You know what I mean? And so many people actually end up like having trouble falling asleep because they didn't have like an adequate like slowdown routine in the evening,
Yeah.
which
Tell
is a
us
big
what an
deal.
ideal routine would
Yeah,
look
yeah.
like.
So first off, like let's talk about like food. Yeah, you shouldn't be eating like 3 to 4 hours before dinner, but before bedtime. Um, Alcohol should be avoided ideally before bed. Certainly, like 2, 3 hours before. The sooner you stop drinking in the evening, the better. Um, Dim lighting is another like really important thing. I think these days we see like everybody, we have all these like high efficiency LED light bulbs, which are great, but a lot of them tend to be a little too blue.
Mm-hmm.
The light that comes off of them is actually bluish. So I think the thing to realize at night, you really want to have like sunset colors. Dim
Mm.
lighting and sunset colors has to start around like 2 hours before you plan to fall asleep. And for me, it's always a surprise if ever I've had my all my lights dimmed at home and I thought I was getting ready for bed and I decided to watch some TV. The minute I put the TV on, and this is horrible, by the way, I know, but like the minute I turn the TV on, I realize, my God, how bright that thing is.
Yeah.
So these things are bright, and if you're sitting in front of it for an hour, you forget that,
Yeah.
and that is not good for melatonin levels and all that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to avoid eating too late, alcohol. You want to dim the room, like you want like candlelight basically in the 2 hours before your bed.
Mm.
But also really important, I think, is like slowing your brain down a little bit and not doing like really active things. Um, Specifically, I think anything interactive has the potential to be dangerous.
Okay.
Even like looking, so in mice, the way they really keep them awake longer than they should is by having them like look for cheese. So any kind of like search and find behavior to your brain is like, it's so rewarding, right? It's like, let me look for something. And this happens on our phones all the time. It's like, let me find that cool article. Let me find that thing I'm looking for. Let me find that thing on Amazon I wanted to order.
Yeah.
And that kind of search, like look, and then, oh, I found it, like is so alerting that that's almost like the opposite of sleep. So
Wow.
certainly nothing interactive before bed. That's really important. And ideally, it's not on a screen. And ideally, it's also not. I mean, I'm always amazed again, both with myself and my patients. Like, if you try reading a book before bed, I'm lucky if I can last 15 minutes.
That's
You
true.
know, but if you're scrolling through news stories or blogs or something like that, I can go for hours because that's
So
that
it's a
same
good
search.
time. Yeah. The
It's that same
reward.
search and find, right? It's like,
Yeah.
let me look. Oh, I found something. You're playing the like a slot machine, and you're trying to
Yes.
fall asleep. Good luck, because you're going to win every now and then. And when you win, you're going to get excited, and you're not going to sleep.
Yes. So reading, is this a good time for journaling? Is that
Absolutely.
okay?
Yeah, yeah. I think if what
Some
you're doing
like
is
gentle
chill,
movement. Yeah.
yeah. If it's chill, that's it. Like it's not like you're not arguing with your spouse about something. You're
I
not
know. I was
balancing.
guilty of that for a while. I love to bring up a topic at the end of the day. And my husband does not
Yeah,
like that. He does
yeah.
not like that.
There's a lot to say on that too. I think that's a point I hear about a lot actually in my work, and
Yeah.
a lot of people have this desire to kind of fix it and like let's make it better before we go to bed. I kind of think that humans are less coherent, less intelligent, and in the hours right before bed than they are in the morning.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Ukrainian and Russian as well, which is that the morning is always wiser than the night.
I
And I
love
can't
that.
tell you enough. People just like do dumb stuff at night that doesn't happen in the morning, and you see evidence of that. Look at anybody that has like a drinking problem, right? Everybody that has a drinking problem will wake up and say, "I'm never going to drink again." But then as people get tired, which is what happens on many levels, like you start like, "Oh, what the hell? I'll have a drink at 5."
Yeah.
We see people binging at night on foods and social media and whatever. But the main reason that I think that happens is that as the brain gets tired throughout the day, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that like really separates humans from a lot of other animals, is the part that has the ability to say no, don't do that, or let's stop doing that. And when that gets a little bit weak because you're tired, it's
Yeah.
harder to say no to stuff. And that, sure, that means you might eat more ice cream. That means you might binge on more Netflix. That means you might also have a hard time letting go of feelings.
Mm.
Um, which, so what we see often in line with this is people that are sleep deprived tend to be a bit more emotional. They tend to be
Oh
more
yeah.
reactive and they tend to be more impulsive.
Yes.
So if anybody sleeps normally, they are probably most fatigued, obviously, by the end of the day. And that is a time when you're actually not your best self.
That's so, I mean,
So
one night
it's
of
just,
bad sleep and I'm like so much more
oh,
sensitive.
cranky, irritable, and like give me some potato chips and like junk food because I love that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but but I think when it comes to like problem solving, especially, I think it's so important for people to just really trust that they'll be smarter the next day after a good
Yeah.
night of sleep than trying to like hammer the problem at like 2 a.m. or wake up in the middle of the night trying to hammer the problem.
Yeah.
And that's been a powerful thing, I think, for people because a lot of times people feel anxious, people especially have a desire to fix it. There's a need to
Yes.
like, I need to get this done. And the way I fix problems is by banging my head against them. You're
Mm.
allowed to do all of that. I'm not saying no. I just think you should be aware if you're doing that too late in the night or in the middle of the night, that that's just going to be counterproductive. And if, as an
And
anxious
I,
person, your
yeah,
goal is to do this right, then don't, if you're drunk, you wouldn't want to problem solve. And if
right.
you're sleep deprived or it's late at night, you're kind of drunk. So you really should avoid big decisions at that moment and big assessments.
That's great. Yeah, if you really want to solve it. I was just going to say, like, I think we've all had that experience of a problem we were trying to solve that we couldn't, and then getting a good night's sleep and waking up and suddenly
It's
having the
there.
answer. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
I've
Counterintuitive.
yeah, I've done a bit of reading on this. There's a great TED talk by I think Adam Grant, "The Surprising Habits of Original Thinkers." Long story short, they showed that humans, if you actually stop banging your head against a problem, you will come up with a more creative answer than you expected, possibly a better answer. So anyway, I think it's all on balance. Thinking a little is okay, but obsessing and doing all that, certainly at midnight or 3 a.m., just have mercy on yourself and don't do that. You'll have the answer, you'll have a better answer in the morning.
Yeah. So I love that wind down routine, not too much thinking, problem solving, dimming the lights, looking at the color of your light, not too much
Absolutely.
blues,
Sunset colors.
sunset colors, getting off the electronics, um, not eating too close to bed. And then what about the room? Can you give us any information about
It should be,
temperature?
yeah, it should be your cave. And that we're still cave people somewhere deep down inside, and your room should be a cool, dark, quiet place.
Okay.
And it's got to be cool. It's important. Like having a temperature set below 70 is probably ideal. You want to be a
Okay.
little bit on the chilly side when you're sleeping with some blankets to keep you warm. Um, it should be quiet. That definitely matters a lot.
Yeah.
And then keeping, yeah, and just darkness is also important. And a
Dark
lot
as
of us have like
possible.
light leakage from a bunch of different things, and even the light from your phone. I realize as we're having this conversation, like, maybe 1% of listeners are going to probably put their phone away now after this. Like everybody still loves their phone. And it's kind of shocking to see just how many people even like interact with their phone more than they interact with their spouse in bed. It becomes like, who do you say goodnight to? Right. And,
Yep.
but
Mhm.
that being said, even your phone, I think it's, I tell my patients to kind of do this test where they'll take their phone and just aim it at a wall away from them.
Yeah.
And if you see that it like lights the wall up, like make the thing as dark as possible. You know what I mean? Like dim those settings so that for the first minute or two, your eyes are like not even seeing the screen because it's so dim. But then they'll adjust because there
Yeah.
too, you don't want to be sitting with like a bright flashlight in your face.
It's
Um,
awful.
and again, if you are doing that, just try to be doing passive things like reading, not like searching for like soccer socks on Amazon.
Yeah. And they have those devices now that are like more flat. So you're not getting that light. You can still read, but it has more of like the book
Oh
kind
yeah, yeah,
of
like the Kindle. So yeah, I
yeah.
prescribe Kindles all the time for my patients. My kids have them as well. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking like you get the Kindle reader, the paper white. It has a
Yes.
dark mode where you have like white print on a black background, so there's
Yeah.
less light overall. And then it's also got like a dim light setting, which is like sunset yellow kind of color, and that's really helpful. And again, you're reading, and you don't have the temptation on a Kindle of picking up your phone or switching into your messaging app or
Yeah.
your whatever like. So
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Now, what about people that fall asleep fine, but wake up a lot in the night or wake up and can't go back to sleep? I'm one of those people that can fall asleep like pretty much as soon as my head hits the pillow. But if I'm woken up or I wake up in the night, I have a hard time to fall back to sleep.
So the people that I see that tend to have that pattern have pretty active minds.
Hmm.
I think there's people that are kind of like there's people also that don't nap well.
Yeah, I'm not
I'm
a napper.
curious if you're one of those. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's always a metric for me, where it's like there's people that could be pretty tired, and it's like, hey, you have a 1 hour chance to nap, and you can't fall asleep. You'll lay there and you'll rest. Um,
Yes.
the opposite of that, I have friends and people and patients I know that will sleep through like airplane takeoff and airplane landing. They're out. They're not waking up, and you tell them to sleep and they'll sleep. So that to me, I think comes back to this. There's almost a spectrum. The way to see this is like there's a spectrum between sleep and wake. Like being really awake is anxiety. Being less awake than that is like being just awake. Being even less so than that is being a little drowsy, low energy, and more so than further down the other end you become actually like sleepy and so like you sleep too much. And I think human beings are wired different ways.
Mm,
My patients that have some ADHD traits, my patients that have some anxiety traits tend to be thin sleepers, which is
mhm.
what you're describing. There's people that it takes them a while to fall asleep, or they wake up easily during the night and then it's hard to fall back asleep, and they can't nap really well. So, what you're feeling, what you're seeing in these people is like just a decreased overall sleep pressure. Imagine that there was a dial in your body that regulated how much sleep, how strong is the sleep force. And those people, the sleep force is not so strong because, like, or the wake force is stronger, right?
Yeah.
These are people that wake up and their mind is already going about three different things. Um,
When
that is
someone
quite
wakes
common.
up when someone wakes up in the night, should they just, like, try to will themselves into, like, calm? Should they write down the thing they're thinking of, or will that wake them up more? Should
So
How long
all of
should they
that,
lay in bed before they should stand up and do something else?
totally. So the general guidance there is about 20 minutes. You don't want to get stressed out in bed. I think the point where you're like tossing and turning and you're getting annoyed and you're like checking the clock again and again, like stop it. Like that should not be happening. Usually we'll say lay in bed for about 20 minutes and try to relax, right? There's a bunch of like guided imagery stuff to be done. There's meditation that could be done. And ideally for anybody with insomnia, I'll always say like you should kind of work on a meditation practice. Anybody with
Yes.
anxiety for that matter as well. Because I think if you can really learn to still your mind and just relax, and yes, meditation is an exercise and a muscle that you can build over time, but you want to practice that during the day and be good at it and have a meditation practice so that at 3 a.m. when this happens, you're not like panicking and trying to figure out meditation for the first time and wondering, am I failing this because I'm thinking about my car keys and the bananas I need to buy tomorrow or the email I
Right.
forgot to send? So I think in all cases, meditation is tremendously powerful, both for anxiety as well as insomnia, and certainly for falling back asleep at night. Um, there's yeah, for people that wake up in the middle of the night, usually we'll say 20 minutes of like chill and try to get sleepy again.
Yeah.
Like just clear your mind, focus on your breath, visualize things. There's good data that visualization really helps because dreaming is kind of like a visual thing. So they say it's actually better to imagine the sheep jumping over the fence rather than count them. So you
Mm.
want to like invoke your visual system. You want to slow your breath and you want to kind of clear your thoughts if you can.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
but if that isn't happening for 20 minutes, I'll usually say get out of bed, get a book, a dim light, boring book, and just read for a little while.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be laying in bed stressing out for hours.
I
That's not
usually
not good.
elevate my legs. I flip my body around in the bed and I put my legs up on the where the headboard is, and that seems to do the trick.
Anything
I
that works is fine. Seriously, like
don't
it's
know.
great. The
Yeah.
thing, yeah, you know what you need. The thing I'll always guide against though is again active behaviors,
Yeah.
like no searching and finding. I have people that will do email at night. No way. Why? It's rewarding. It's like
Yeah.
you just told your brain that like if we're not sleeping, we're going to get work done, and
Yeah.
that's not what you want. There's people that'll do the dishes at night in the middle of the night. Um, you don't if you remember the Pavlovian experiments with like Pavlov and his dogs, the bell
Yeah.
made them salivate, and you want to associate the bed with sleep.
Yeah.
And if you're awake, and you also need to kind of train your sleep a little bit, that if you're awake, there's no fun. There's
Yeah.
nothing rewarding. We're not getting ice cream at 4 a.m. because we can't sleep. That's not
Yeah.
happening. We're going to get like a boring book and a dim room. And when you're ready for sleep, it comes back.
That
So
makes so
ideally, you
much
also
sense.
don't pick up your phone and start, checking your stock portfolio at 4 in the morning.
If you start teaching yourself that you're getting so much done with these extra hours, your body is going to start waking up and just doing that
Yeah.
more and more.
Whoop de doo. Great. Let's do that
Yeah.
more. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
productive.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so you mentioned that sleep pressure. I know that's very important. Can you take us then maybe to the morning and how we should start our day so that our sleep pressure builds throughout the day?
Totally. Yeah. So one of the most important things in the morning is getting like natural light, natural bright light. But I should say even before that, I think it's important to have a pretty regular wake up time. You don't want to
Mm.
vary your wake time too much because your sleep loves rhythmicity.
And
Sleep loves
sleep time
rhythm.
too, right? They should
Yeah,
be.
and the other thing I tell a lot of my patients is for people with insomnia, it's easier to control when you wake up than when you fall asleep. So you
Hmm.
actually should the morning is actually really important in that way because that is like the clock starts then. And you actually have pretty good control over when you wake up. You can force yourself to wake up. You cannot force yourself to fall asleep. So
Yes.
bright light in the morning is essential. I also think it's important to kind of like, certainly no snoozing, that just kills minutes or hours of morning sleep for no good reason. Just wake up already and get out of bed. Um, but also, I think there's something to be said about the sacredness of the morning in a way, like that. There's a lot of like, CEO advice on this also about like, you wake up in a pure state, right? Like there's a lot of like performance advice on this matter. And they say it's good to kind of like do what you need to think and do what you want to do for a moment, maybe 10 minutes in the morning before you
Yeah.
busy yourself with your email, before you busy yourself with like checking your text messages and your inboxes and essentially the concerns of everyone else. There is something sacred to that silence in the morning when you wake up with just your own thoughts and your own memories of your night. And I think in this increasingly busy society and world that we live in, we really should like enhance those beautiful moments of being with ourselves,
Yeah.
and then there's no time like that than the morning. So I,
Yeah.
I think it's really special to kind of just take 5 minutes, lay there quietly. You don't need to fiddle with your phone immediately, and just like let that morning sink in a little bit, the
Yeah.
silence of it.
Yeah. Wake up slowly and then make sure to get some natural light early in the
Yeah.
day.
Go for a walk if you can early in the morning. That helps.
Yeah.
Movement, a little breakfast, I think, also plays a role in like establishing people's routine and
Mm.
the circadian cycle.
And what's your thoughts on coffee?
I don't know. Some people say you shouldn't have coffee like first thing in the morning. You might want to have it a little later.
Mm.
I'm neither here nor there. I generally think there's enough data that coffee is a good thing for a lot of people. It seems to enhance longevity, and I don't know. I've only read positive things about it. Again,
Yeah.
not to be drank in excess. We're not like, you don't need to drink 3 ventis a day of
Yeah.
Starbucks, but coffee is great. I do think that the body wakes up with a natural surge of cortisol and adrenaline. This is,
Yeah.
by the way, why anxious people sometimes are more anxious in the morning. This
Yeah.
happens a lot because your body naturally has like a surge of these like awake hormones that kind of naturally wake you up. So yeah, coffee, I'd say sometime between 10 and noon. But yeah, if you could
Yeah.
avoid the first hour or two of coffee, you probably don't need it then just yet. And I
Hmm.
think a cup of coffee slightly later in the afternoon actually beautifully offsets that 2 p.m. dip that all of
Hmm.
us experience, like the siesta time. So that's a real thing. And, there's countries that will actually sleep during that time. But you want
Yeah.
to time your caffeine if you're busy and you've got work to do. You want to time your caffeine so that it's kind of peaking around that time. And if you're drinking coffee, to anybody that drinks coffee once they're sleepy already, yeah, good luck. It'll be an hour before that works, and your sleepiness will probably pass on its own before that. On the other
Mm.
hand, if you know you get sleepy at, let's say, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then it's a good idea to drink coffee around 11 or 10.
That's smart. Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, you
Think
want to you want
ahead.
to pregame. Yeah, you got to pregame for coffee.
Pre-game with your coffee. I love that. Well, I'm glad you're not taking coffee away from us. That would break my heart.
No,
Um,
coffee's
I
special.
have tried to I delay my coffee a little bit. I used to get up and have a cup right away, but I have
Yeah,
found like delaying coffee to be good, especially I get up very early. So
yeah,
if I
totally.
if I start right with the coffee, then I have to stop too early for my liking.
All right.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would
Yeah.
tell you is like L-theanine, which is a substance that you find in green tea, and green tea
Mhm.
in general is just a wonderful stimulant. It's gentle,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's smoother than caffeine, and I've had a lot of people really love that as a coffee replacement. You're still getting some
That's great.
caffeine, but you're getting L-theanine as well, which is good for the brain. Enhances neuroplasticity and reduces anxiety, and why not? So
Oh,
green
that's
tea, I should,
great.
yeah, people should know that green tea is a very nice alternative to coffee, and
Oh, that's
healthy too.
wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm curious if we could talk a little bit about sleep disorders for folks who have been through trauma, or maybe with some different mental health diagnoses.
Totally, totally. And I'm a reductionist. I don't know. I kind of think of things in as simple ways as possible because I think that those tend to be true. The issue I think we run into again is that spectrum between sleep and wake,
Hmm.
especially for people with trauma. There is evidence that like they're in a hyper arousal state, right? Like what is PTSD, right? It's like vigilance, hyper arousal. Like there's reactivity. Um, Exaggerated startle response, right? Like, what does that mean? That means that, like, if we spook you, your heart rate really goes up a lot and it stays elevated longer than for somebody that didn't have trauma. And in milder cases, people with anxiety as well.
Yeah.
So all of us have some degree of look, we have two nervous systems, right? We have the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight, and you've got the parasympathetic, which is the rest, digest, and sleep, right? And in people with trauma, the sympathetic nervous system is a bit overactivated, and that's why you see the takes you see, and sleep is of course the main area where you see this, because it's harder
Yeah.
to fall asleep. They wake up more easily. They'll have nightmares, and in general, like you'll see signs of body activation in the form of elevated blood pressure, heart rate, but also besides absolute blood pressures and heart rate, you want to look at like the reactivity in these people. And what
Hmm.
happens in PTSD is that there's like a lot of reactivity. So the version of that I see in a lot of my patients, even with anxiety, I call it battlefield sleep.
Hmm.
And battlefield sleep is kind of like how you would be sleeping if you were at war. And that means that it would be a vigilant sleep. You'd be kind of like, sleep with one eye open a little bit. It would be hard to fall asleep, easily awoken. And
Yeah.
also, a lot of people with this, whether it's PTSD or anxiety, they tend to get like the bare minimum of sleep that they need, right? So they're
Hmm.
going to get by on like 5 hours. They'll sleep. They're not going to not sleep, but they're not going to sleep 8 hours. They're going to sleep like 4 or 5 hours, which is enough to survive. You won't die from that, but it's not enough to feel rested and good during the day. And it also perpetuates that cycle, as we described earlier, that like when you don't sleep well, you do end up a little more anxious and reactive during the day, so that feeds the loop a little bit.
It's going
So
to heighten
yeah.
those other symptoms.
So I think a lot of people, whether
Yeah.
whether it's PTSD or anxiety, can experience battlefield sleep. I see it a lot,
Yeah.
and that's just from stress or from trauma, or a lot of things can do it. PTSD tends to be worse.
Sounds also like first year of motherhood to me. you
That
you
too.
can't go into a
Battlefield
full
sleep.
sleep. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Don't get too comfortable, right?
You're kind of in a very, very light sleep, and you don't know when you could be woken at any minute, which I know
Totally.
is
Totally.
not the best. Is there a different way of treating folks who have been through trauma, PTSD, and have some, maybe negative connotations about sleep or fears, afraid to fall asleep too deeply?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's so the general treatment for most insomnia is both behavioral in the form of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia that works really well. There's mindfulness that's a part of that. There's sleep training, sleep routines, associations with the bedroom, challenging your belief systems about what is sleep safe, etc. Like all the therapy around that can help. And then there's also medication. Um, I think I, I'm, I think too many people try to avoid medicine for too long.
Okay.
Medicine has a stigma. I'm hoping to be writing my own book on this called Meditation or Medication.
Awesome.
When is it time to chill and when is it time to pill? And I think
Yeah.
fundamentally, like people are terrified of medicine for not the right reasons, and a lot of people suffer years trying to deal with either anxiety, depression, or insomnia, and certainly with PTSD symptoms. There's this feeling of like I got this, I can do this on my own, and I tremendously honor and respect that. But I think a lot of times I see people in my practice that have done this for 10 years and they're
Yeah.
still suffering. And it took them like their therapist to finally say like, hey man, maybe you need a pill for that, you know?
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that when biologically you can slow people down a little bit, then all the therapy and all the intervention starts to work so much better. And
That's right.
that's that perfect storm in a way of like, a lot of these experiences, whether it's insomnia, or depression or anxiety, to me is like a ski hill, and you're like learning to ski. So if the ski hill is really steep, you're not going to learn anything. You're going to tumble and it's going to be disastrous. That's because that's your biology, right? Your biology is so hyper aroused. You're so wired that, you listen to all these things you should do before bed, but you
Yeah.
can't.
You can't even
You've
hear
tried
it.
that. You've tried it for years and you can't.
Yeah.
Um, and on the other hand, a lot of medicines, for example, will lessen the steepness of that hill. And now
Okay.
suddenly you can actually get away with that turn the way you were taught to make that turn. And that leads to some victories. And I think people that are suffering, especially for a long time, really need to see that the needle can move. That, oh, wow, like, okay, like we actually made some progress. And I'll be honest, I think in my line of work, intelligent, conservative, well tailored medication can really make a tremendous difference for people. And I'm not talking about keeping people on pills their whole lives or high doses of anything, but like if there's something that'll help you sleep longer, like that may help you. If there's something that reduces anxiety, that may also be good, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times that's the best way, right? With when you use the medicine to help with the therapy and they work together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some people really need both. Listen, I definitely say start with non-medicine approaches first and be diligent about it. And like really just like if you took a pill, you would take it every day. So if you're going to do any behavioral intervention, do that regularly. Treat it,
Hmm.
take it seriously, and take notes actually, so you see what changed and what didn't. The problem I think with a lot of behavioral things is people will do it for like 3 4 days, then they'll forget, then they'll do it another day, and then they'll forget and they'll say, "Oh, that didn't work." But
And the behavioral things are the things that we've been talking about
yeah,
like, yeah, okay.
yeah. Or let's say even keeping like a dream journal or a worry journal, which helps some people, right? Like or getting to bed at a certain time or waking up at a certain time and having a routine in the bed before bed.
Hmm.
But I think whatever intervention you do, whether it's behavioral or medical, be diligent about it and do it for about a month consistently before you judge if that works or doesn't.
Hmm. Yeah. So try that
To give it a fair
first.
chance.
Give it a chance. If you just can't do it, if it's not working, can't stick to it, then it might be time to consider getting some medication, at least to. And with the medication, is it something that you'll be on forever, or does it just get you back in that pattern, and then
Yeah,
it can
I think
depend?
with good therapy, I mean, yeah. So some people, like there's people that are born with familial tendencies towards high cholesterol, right? There's
Hmm.
people that are born with high blood pressure, and for both of those groups, certainly trying watch your diet, reduce your salt intake, reduce your fat intake. Do that for a while. Do it well. But
Yeah.
if it's not happening and you've had 3 generations of grandmothers that have been high cholesterol, like it might be time for you to take a cholesterol pill.
Yeah.
And the same I think applies in mental health, whether it's anxiety, sleep disturbance, PTSD. If it's something you've had your whole life, you've tried all the behavioral therapy approaches to it. There does come a moment where it's like, all right, it's like if you have bad vision, you can keep squinting, or you can
Yeah.
just put some glasses on. And
Yeah.
people often talk about these medicines in that scenario. It's like, well, won't I then be addicted to that medicine? But it's like, I don't know. Are you addicted to your eyeglasses so you can read?
Right.
The answer is
Yeah.
that they're a tool that helps you.
Yeah.
And you could always try squinting harder, but that doesn't always work.
Yeah. I mean, and as we've discussed, like lack of sleep, it leads to so many negative outcomes. I mean, maybe we haven't laid them out enough. I know, like, I see more psychosis in people that aren't getting good
Totally,
sleep. But we just said, like, you're a little more emotional, but this could
totally,
be psychosis. This could be,
absolutely,
obviously, you can get in more accidents. Um,
absolutely. People, so sleep deprivation is tremendous because the frontal cortex is like a little bit impacted when you're tired. The
yeah.
same way it is the same as it is, by the way, when you're drunk. And they've shown that like driving studies of people that are sleep deprived, they drive like they're drunk when you're sleep
Yes.
deprived.
Yes.
Um, but basically, what ends up happening is like everything gets intensified because your brakes are bad, right? You don't have the ability to like control things as well as you normally do. So feelings run hot, emotions run hot, reactions run hot. And that's just the mental stuff. Moods can be more intense. It could be harder to stop thinking that negative thought. It could be harder to resist saying that thing to your boss or your partner that's on your mind.
Yeah.
And 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 there's a tremendously painful internal experience, I think, as thoughts just like ruminate and fester. You're binging on your own negative thoughts in a way, and you can't stop because you're sleep
Mm.
deprived. And I think the
Hmm.
most gracious thing we could all do for ourselves in those moments is recognize, wait a minute, I'm sleep deprived. That's why this thought is spinning so much in my head. And the answer now is not to keep banging at this and solve it, but the answer is to just get some sleep, park it,
Hmm.
and trust that you'll have a better answer tomorrow. And that's
Yeah.
just the mental stuff. Sleep will impact your memory consolidation. Lack of good sleep can accelerate dementia symptoms. Um, Metabolic stuff. People eat more junk food, they gain weight. Their glucose, their cholesterol can go up from lack of sleep. Um, yeah, it just keeps going and going. And then there's all the performance stuff as well. Like people don't, they're going to be less creative. They're going to be less attentive, less vigilant on tests. They're going to make mistakes, careless mistakes all day, whether it's
Yeah.
driving or doing some work at your job. And all of that has like tremendous impact. And the last thing I was even going to say is like people with ADHD, lack of good sleep can almost make you look like you have ADHD. And people
Hmm.
that have ADHD get a lot worse from lack of sleep, consistent with all that. And I've actually seen a lot of cases where people are on medicine for either ADHD or depression, and the meds seem to not work. And I swear, it's almost like if you're not sleeping, the meds will just not work the same way. And the
Huh.
saying goes that if there's no gas in the tank, you can't push the accelerator.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. Well, I definitely believe if you can solve for sleep, you can solve so many other comorbidities like much more easily. Sleep is a
Absolutely.
good way in. It's a really good way in to get a big step forward on all those other things that you're talking about: depression, anxiety, trauma, ADHD. Like it is a touch point in every mental illness.
Totally. And I true to your point, Lara, I think if you look even like through evolution, like take a minute and realize that like how inconvenient sleep is in a like right for a hunter gatherer or whatever. Like you
Yeah,
are out for 8 hours. You are vulnerable. You are not
yeah,
eating. You are not procreating. You are not doing anything like evolutionarily useful. But evolution insisted on keeping about a third of our lives asleep. Like
right,
there's
right.
clearly something there, you
That
know?
is such a good point.
Like it's kind of a
Right?
big deal.
Yes, that there is something important going on.
There's a signal. Yeah,
Exactly.
Mother Nature, I think, sent us a signal, which is like sleep is important.
Yeah. Well, I know you don't have too much more time. I know you are involved in some ketamine therapies as well.
Totally.
Do we have enough time to say a few short
Yeah, yeah,
words
yeah.
about that? I
Sure.
know
Absolutely.
people are very interested in that right now. And can you tell us what you're using ketamine therapies for specifically, which types of diagnoses and
Totally.
what you've seen?
Yeah, so we use ketamine typically for treatment-resistant depression. There's people that have been stuck in depressive loops and they've done through all the therapy and behavioral things, and they're usually doing that concurrent with the ketamine. We've tried medications and had mixed results. And there's times when, yeah, we administer ketamine as an injection, a shot in the arm. I usually will talk to my patients before that. We do intention setting. We review what items need to be addressed, what things need attention. Um, Usually, my patients for 20 or 30 minutes will be sitting on the couch with an eye mask and headphones, listening to ambient, like chill music, and just
Hmm.
cruising through the cosmos, as we say. And then when they come back, and then we chat a little bit afterwards. And the whole idea there is that ketamine is it enhances neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is really one of the, along with sleep, I would say, it's like one of the holy grails of like mental health and mental performance and optimization. Neuroplasticity, like, is kind of like what it sounds like. It allows you to think differently about things. It allows you to say, hey, normally I react this way, but maybe there's this other way of looking at it. Um, in older people, we try to maintain neuroplasticity by telling them to like learn a new language, learn to play an instrument, learn a new sport. But whenever we're learning, we're enhancing neuroplasticity. Exercise does that too, by the way. And being able to think about things differently is a tremendously powerful therapeutic tool. And that's what ketamine does. Ketamine, it's almost like I almost joke with some of my patients that like if your brain were chocolate, ketamine melts it just a little bit.
Huh.
You're not going to become a different person. You're not going to change massively. However, you're going to soften up a little bit, especially in those times around the actual treatment. And that's where the therapy is important because that's like the mold into which you recongeal.
Got
So that's
it.
the difference. I think a lot of people remember ketamine as like a party drug that their friends did at some club, and your friend was
Hmm.
in a K hole or whatever, and we've heard that. But
Yeah.
I think used therapeutically, it's tremendously powerful, and that has to do with what I just described: having intentionality, having pre process, post process, integration,
That's
and
so
uh, and just having a
important.
direction to go in.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on people that are doing this at home now? Not the same then. They're not really working with
Yeah,
someone.
I'm usually I'm generally in belief of like even our patients that do it at home, we really insist that they're speaking with their therapist probably the same day,
Okay.
to provide that guidance and to have that holding space and that support so that it's not just a blind fishing trip, but it's intentional. I think
Hmm.
intentionality is a very important thing.
And how are you screening folks for ketamine treatment? Are there some counterindications, or do they have to have tried
There's not
other
really
things
too many.
first?
Yeah, usually we'd like to
Yeah.
see that they've tried a number of medications and failed. We do look at substance use history just to make sure that there's not going to be like a substance issue with that. Though even as I say that, there are people with alcoholism, for example, that have been improved from ketamine assisted therapy. So it kind of goes both ways. We're obviously doing some cardiovascular checks, blood pressure, heart rate, just to be sure that people are okay that way. Yeah, and I think there's not a lot of reasons that people will get disqualified from a ketamine trial, assuming that they have legitimate, some legitimate issues such as depression. Um, yeah, at that point, really the setting we really just follow the book. to make it
And
a powerful
what have you
experience.
seen when you talk about? I mean, when you talk about treatment resistant depression, we're talking like people with persistent depression. They are depressed for a long time. They've tried everything. I know clients like this and have clients like this. Do you have any
Yeah,
success cases for us?
people, I think, just in the general type of response we see is people kind of pop out of the weeds. They kind of get elevated a little bit high enough to see the things that matter and the things that don't. And
Mm-hmm.
from that perspective, even if it's temporary, I think people are provided a window into hope and change that they might not have seen when they're mired down in the weeds.
Yeah.
It gives people sometimes a break from their depression, even if it's temporary, that just lets them see, okay, now I need to do this. And it
Yeah.
fortifies these solutions for people that are generally stuck,
Yeah.
stuck and feeling like this is just without hope and this is never going to end.
Mm,
You
that's
know, so
beautiful.
so that's important, and I think psychedelics in general are coming in very full force. We're seeing a lot of that psilocybin trials in people with terminal cancer diagnoses, but also people with treatment-resistant depression. And
Yeah.
psilocybin is coming out as a very powerful, lasting effect. But again, I emphasize that this is in a therapeutic setting with guidance. This is not just a Dave Matthews concert.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's the, like you said, set and setting. We did an episode on some of the psilocybin and treatments. So I'll refer people back to that. Although maybe it's time to do another one. It's like the information is changing so quickly.
totally.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'd be happy to help if you want to do that later. But yeah, psychedelics I think are emerging as just like agents of change, and agents that can possibly gently rewire the brain in a healthy way. But again, you have to be very careful how it's done, because truly, it's been described as like strapping yourself to a rocket and or going or flying a plane by yourself. Like it could be really good, but it could also be really bad.
But
And
yeah.
that's where having a co-pilot, having a guide, having somebody that knows what they're doing is essential.
Yeah.
Because people, I should say, also have bad experiences on psychedelics, and
Yes.
those can create trauma. Actually,
Yes.
like let me just, I really want to point that out. People can have sufficiently scary experiences that they do remain traumatized by what
Yep.
they experienced, and that I think is from lack of structure.
Yes. And that's hindering that has hindered the research going forward and the use of
Right.
this important drug, important
Totally.
solution, because it's just so bad when it goes wrong. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. It
um
looks awful, right? It's like
yeah.
people jumping off buildings and or running into traffic.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be tremendously respectful of these very powerful substances. Ketamine obviously is at the forefront for now because it's legal already.
Yeah.
It's been used as an anesthetic for a long time. It's pretty safe in terms of dosage and adverse effects. However, combining it with alcohol or any other sedative has been dangerous, and that's what we saw with Matthew Perry.
Yeah, I was just thinking of
So you know what I
that.
mean? Like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
and I have seen ketamine does get abused. I've seen a number of patients where it turns into like you're taking bumps throughout the day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's already not a clinical use. That's an addictive pattern.
Like anything.
I think we
So
got to watch that. Right,
yeah, it's like,
right.
what is it? There's a great quote about like poison is just like medicine in the wrong dosage, or, or medicine is
Absolutely,
poison in the right dose. And I really believe
absolutely.
that's true. Well, you have provided so much good information today. Is there something I didn't ask you that it's important to share, or some final words that you want to leave for our listeners before obviously you let us know how to get in touch with you and work with you and all that good stuff?
Totally, totally. I would just say that, like, the best sleep advice I've ever heard was from my grandma. And that was the joke that we had at Stanford too, that like all this stuff, you could overthink it. You could do all this like weird, biometric stuff. And I don't know, at the end of the day, just like give yourself 8 quiet hours in bed, slow it
Yeah.
down. Our society is just so fast these days. It's like the opposite of sleep. And that's why we're kind of seeing this like sleep renaissance, because it's like, oh, wait a minute, we kind of need that to be, to be rational, to be kind human beings. So yeah, keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Don't over analyze and do this. Just get in bed and like chill. Spend some time with your partner. You know what I mean? Like, God forbid you have an hour of silence. You didn't need to watch that other Netflix show. And really, I think for anybody that stays up with their phone or whatever, like, sure, it's fun in the moment, but if you don't remember the next day what you read, you're probably wasting your time. And we know this, right? Like if you read a book, you kind of remember what you're reading. But if you're reading like 12 different news articles, great. They were juicy, they were interesting, they kept you up till 1. but you don't remember any of that. So just knock it off at some point. Just get
Mm.
some sleep. Trust that the sleep will make for a much better day, and you'll be happier tomorrow too.
Yeah. Well, thank
My
you.
yeah.
Yeah, tell us how to find
Oh
you.
yeah, so so my office is in Silicon Valley. Our website is siliconpsych.com. We have a bunch of like great blog posts. I blog about this stuff all the time, and mental health in general, performance optimization, sleep for sure. And yeah, we're out in California, Menlo Park, and we can only work with people in California. So if you're ever around and you're looking for guidance, please reach out to us. Otherwise, check
Good.
out our website because we got some good stuff in there.
Plenty of listeners in California, and we'll send them your way. And your website is truly excellent. I love the
And I'm
blog
hoping I'm hoping to
posts.
get this book out. I gotta get this book done. Hopefully, we get that
Okay,
done because
you'll
that'll
have
be
to let me know when that
absolutely,
comes out. Yeah,
absolutely.
and then we'll do a re-release on the episode and all that, so we can time that a little better for you. That's really exciting. And
Thank you, Lara.
what I really enjoyed, especially from our conversation, is like you're not all or nothing. You seem to integrate a lot of different approaches. I come from a yoga meditation background.
Totally,
I've moved into clinical practice, and I still use Eastern, Western, every tool available. Why not? Why not?
absolutely. And some of these
Yeah,
tools are 3,000 years old. Like
exactly.
sleep, this has been around for a while. We should honor this.
Ah, medicine. Sleep is medicine.
It is
Beautiful.
medicine.
Thank you so,
Thank
so
you.
much.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Lara. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.